In the shadowy world of global espionage, few names command as much respect and fear as the intelligence apparatus of Israel. Often envisioned as an impenetrable aegis, a silent guardian protecting a nation under constant threat. Yet every shield, no matter how finely forged, bears the marks of its battles. Today, we peel back the layers of myth to reveal a narrative long kept in the shadows. This is The Shattered Shield, a profound journey into the hidden history of Israeli intelligence failures, exploring the moments when the unseen wall faltered and the consequences that followed.
For decades, the State of Israel has meticulously crafted a formidable image, positioning its intelligence agencies as the very bedrock of its national survival. This strategic bastion, fueled by the lion's share of state resources, projects an aura of unparalleled capability. Yet, this prowess does not exist in isolation. It is deeply intertwined with the world's most powerful clandestine networks. As high-ranking officials within the Shin Bet have noted, their strength is fundamentally rooted in the profound cooperation shared with American and British intelligence, a partnership that remains a vital pillar of their global reach. Recent events, such as the sophisticated pager operation in Lebanon in September 2024, are heralded within the domestic sphere as triumphs of absolute superiority, further cementing a narrative of an intelligence apparatus that is as pervasive as it is unstoppable.
On October 7, 2023, a long-held perception of invincibility was irrevocably shattered. The events of that day dealt a staggering blow to the storied reputation of Israeli intelligence, sending a shockwave through the global security apparatus that continues to reverberate even now. While Hamas had been meticulously orchestrating this assault for at least 2 years, the intelligence community found itself in a vacuum, possessing no accurate information regarding the impending catastrophe. Even as the sun rose on that fateful morning, clear signals of unusual activity within Gaza were tragically dismissed, misread as nothing more than routine training exercises. Observers now suggest that this intelligence failure is far more profound than the one that preceded the 1973 war, a comparison that underscores the sheer scale of the oversight. We are left to wonder, was this a singular, shocking anomaly, or rather the dark culmination of a history hidden from view?
The catastrophic failure of 2023 was not a sudden anomaly, but rather the culmination of a long and hidden erosion. For more than 70 years, the formidable shield of Israel's security apparatus has been quietly compromised, its integrity undermined by foreign interests exploiting the most fundamental of human vulnerabilities. These penetrations were driven by two primary forces. First, the profound pull of ideology, a steadfast devotion to competing political systems, such as the pervasive influence of communism in decades past. Second, the timeless lure of financial gain, where the promise of an extravagant lifestyle outweighed the weight of national loyalty. To truly grasp how this foundation eventually gave way, we must look back at the historical cracks that formed over the years, tracing a path from the early 1950s through the 1980s and into the modern era of the 2010s.
The Cold War was not merely a conflict of borders and missiles, but a silent war of shadows that reached into the very heart of emerging nations. Within the young state of Israel, foundational cracks began to appear as the Soviet KGB and GRU orchestrated a sophisticated ideological infiltration. They found fertile ground in the waves of immigration, weaving their agents into the fabric of a society still defining its identity. Among the most striking examples was Professor Kurt Sitte, a preeminent physicist at the Technion. His expertise granted him entry into the most sensitive corridors of Israel's nascent nuclear program, yet his true allegiance lay with the ideology of communism. For years, Sitte funneled critical military and nuclear secrets to his Soviet handlers, a betrayal that ended only with his arrest in 1960. In a chilling twist of geopolitical maneuvering, it was later revealed that the CIA had been aware of his activities but chose to remain silent. Even more profound was the breach caused by Israel Beer, a man who stood in the inner sanctum of power as a senior military analyst and special advisor to Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion.
Driven by a conviction that Israel's future was inextricably linked to the USSR, Beer delivered strategic military files and intelligence directly to Moscow. His actions earned him the reputation of being one of the most damaging spies the nation has ever faced, proving that the most dangerous threats are often those that whisper in the ears of leaders. In the clandestine world of espionage, the greatest danger often resides not in the shadows of the enemy, but within the very walls of the fortress itself. This is the chilling reality of the enemy within, a time when the watchers themselves were watched. Consider the case of Zygmunt Lucien Levy-Levin, a trusted operative of the Shin Bet. Tasked with monitoring the movements of Eastern Bloc embassies, Levy-Levin chose a path of profound betrayal. Driven by the lure of financial gain, he exposed the intricate plans and methods of his agency to Polish handlers, allowing a stream of vital intelligence to flow directly to Moscow. It was a scenario described as the wolf guarding the sheep, a breach so complete that it forced the Shin Bet to dismantle and rebuild its entire operational structure, changing every code name and method known to the traitor. Yet he was not alone in his treachery. Shimon Levinson, a high-ranking colonel in military intelligence and former Mossad officer, held the keys to the kingdom as the chief of security in the prime minister's office. In a move that sent shockwaves through the establishment, Levinson walked into the Soviet embassy in Bangkok and sold Israel's most guarded secrets, including the inner workings of cabinet meetings, for large sums of money. For his colleagues, the revelation was a nightmare realized. A man with access to the nation's most sensitive information had become its greatest liability, proving that no shield is impenetrable when the rot begins from within.
In the shadows of national security, where the most guarded secrets are kept, even the most impenetrable fortresses can be breached from within. This is the story of the violation of the Holy of Holies, where the very foundations of state survival were compromised by those entrusted to protect them. Consider first the case of Professor Marcus Klingberg, a world-renowned epidemiologist and a founding pillar of the highly secretive Israel Institute for Biological Research. Klingberg was a man of immense intellect and profound trust. Yet, for decades, he lived a double life, providing the Soviet Union with Israel's most sensitive biological weapon secrets. Driven not by greed, but by a pure, albeit dangerous, ideology, he believed his actions would forge a strategic balance of power in a volatile world. His eventual exposure revealed what many called the biggest traitor in the nation's history, leading to a decade of imprisonment under a false identity, hidden from the world he helped destabilize. But the biological realm was not the only sanctuary to be violated. At the heart of the Negev desert, within the Dimona nuclear reactor, a technician named Mordechai Vanunu would orchestrate a colossal security failure. Vanunu was no classic spy. He was a man driven by the conviction that Israel's nuclear ambiguity placed the entire world at risk. With a smuggled camera, he captured 60 photographs that would eventually grace the pages of Britain's Sunday Times, stripping away the veil of secrecy. In doing so, he revealed the secret of secrets, the very holy of holies of the state, forever changing the global perception of its nuclear capabilities. These breaches serve as a haunting reminder that the ultimate vulnerability of any nation often lies in the hands of those entrusted to protect its most sacred truths.
In the modern era, a shadow war persists, defined by clandestine operations and strategic subversion. Today, Iran stands as the primary adversary, relentlessly seeking to infiltrate the inner sanctums of Israeli intelligence and military power. This persistent penetration manifests in ways both shocking and subtle, as evidenced by two distinct dossiers of betrayal. Consider first the staggering case of Gonen Segev, a man who once occupied the highest echelons of government as the Minister of Energy. His fall from grace began in 2012 when he was recruited by Iranian intelligence. Segev's treachery was profound. He journeyed to Tehran twice, surrendering sensitive data regarding national energy infrastructure and the identities of key security officials. It was a revelation that sent shockwaves through the establishment, a profound surprise that a former cabinet member would willingly serve the interests of a primary enemy state. Yet the threat is not confined to the halls of power. It also creeps through the back door. Omri Goren, a domestic worker in the household of then Defense Minister Benny Gantz, illustrates a different, more opportunistic vulnerability. For the sum of $7,000, Gorin offered to plant spyware on the minister's personal computer for an Iranian-linked hacking collective. While he lacked the sophistication of a career operative, his actions exposed a critical failure within the Shin Bet. Despite an extensive criminal record, Gorin had bypassed security protocols, leaving a major stain on the reputation of the domestic security agency. From the highest offices of the state to the most intimate domestic settings, the shield of national security remains under constant, calculated pressure, revealing that no layer of defense is entirely impenetrable.
As the geopolitical landscape shifted, the conflict began to manifest in wider fronts and deeper, more permanent wounds. In the 1950s, the Egyptian theater became a stage for one of the most disastrous intelligence failures in history, the Lavon affair. This clandestine false flag operation, intended to destabilize the region, instead led to the exposure of a spy ring composed of Egyptian Jews. The fallout was exacerbated by the betrayal of Avri Elad, the infamous third man, whose double dealing with Egyptian intelligence led to tragic executions and a political scandal that would plague the leadership of David Ben-Gurion for a generation. But the battle lines were also being drawn within. By 1972, the Palestinian Front saw the emergence of the Red Front, led by figures like Udi Adiv, an Israeli leftist from the heart of the kibbutz movement. Adiv's anti-Zionist convictions led him to Damascus, where he collaborated with militant organizations. Though his group did not engage in direct violence, the breach was profound. By sharing tactical details of his paratrooper service with Syrian intelligence, Adiv crossed a line that resulted in a harsh espionage conviction, a stark reminder of the internal fractures that continue to haunt the narrative of this enduring struggle.
The narrative of security often masks a fragile reality, and here we witness a profound moment of reckoning. The events of October 7th were not merely a lapse, but a systemic failure born from a fatal combination of arrogance and complacency. From the highest offices of government to the strategic heart of the military, a sense of invulnerability had taken hold, blinding the establishment to the shifting tides of the conflict. While the nation's defenses appeared robust, the shield was already fracturing from within. Hamas's growing capabilities were systematically underestimated, their meticulous intelligence gathering dismissed or ignored by those who believed they held the ultimate advantage. Yet, across the border, a plan was being executed with chilling precision. By exploiting every available means of information, the adversary mapped their target with absolute clarity, turning the very confidence of their opponent into a devastating vulnerability. It was a failure that echoed from the top of the pyramid to its base, proving that even the most formidable armor cannot protect against the blindness of one's own pride.
The dust of conflict rarely settles without consequence, and for the architects of intelligence, a profound reckoning has begun. In April 2024, Aharon Haliva, the head of military intelligence, stepped down, a symbolic admission of accountability that signals a broader, inevitable exodus. As the fires of active engagement eventually dim, a generation of leadership is expected to follow, leaving behind a void where absolute certainty once stood. Yet, in the shadows, efforts to reclaim a shattered reputation are already underway. High-profile, clandestine operations, such as the sophisticated pager attacks in Lebanon, serve as more than tactical strikes. They are calculated attempts to restore a myth of invincibility. This is a bid to project renewed strength to a watching world, an effort to mend the intelligence deterrent that was so violently breached. But narratives of superiority are fragile things. While the state strives to maintain its official image, the deep strategic scars of October 7th remain. Much like the intelligence failures of decades past, the true extent of the damage may not be fully realized for a generation. For now, the future of a once unrivaled reputation hangs in the balance, like a fractured shield held together by effort, yet forever changed by the cracks that run through its heart.